Well, good morning and welcome back to our podcast. And today is the first one that we have a guest on, because the first one it was just Nick and I, and now we have a very special guest and friend. And we're going to go deeper into some very important conversation that is, I think, it's just very crucial for all of us to be having in this moment. But before we do that, we want to get to know you a little bit more. Kary, thank you so much for joining us. It's so great to have you here today.
I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
So, I mean, so as I'm thinking about it, like, it's not everybody in podcasts can say that their friends are changing the world. And secondly, that they get to have their friends on the podcast, right? And Nick, I'm blessed to just have met all your friends throughout all these years of being and working together.
It's been an incredible journey of traveling 84 countries and speaking all around the world, meeting presidents and politicians and then business leaders in their nation, making a difference, moving the needle. And when you look at society, we know that there are 7 mountains of influence, and understanding how God uses us to make a positive impact in a country. And I am blessed to have a lot of friends that are engaged in a moving of the needle mission. And today, covering about media, social media, technology, but these roots of you and your father and the Eldred family is just incredibly inspiring, not just for me to pioneer. I mean, you're one of your family, and what you've done with Tuvu and who your family is honestly just a story that needs to be shared to the world. And I'm just so glad, Kary, that not only are we friends, and I love Monica, your wife, and we've had, an affinity of Europe and Spain and going back in our roots, me as a European as well, blooded, but really our concern for the United States of America, really big concern for the church, and really needing to be engaged on the conversations and front line of, if you will, most and foremost, our biggest passion for the next generation of America. Now, there's a lot to unpack here, but I just want to say you're inspiring, and I love that I can say with all my heart, you're my friend, I'm your friend, I'm going to give you a hug. But I just want to say we love you, and thank you so much for having us be able to share the story of what God's woven, started, and still doing through you all. Give me a hug.
Amen, brother. Well,
love you.
Happy
Bless
to be here.
you.
Very excited to be your contemporary in the history of the kingdom of God. We'll have a special camaraderie in heaven, I believe, for the contemporaries that were called to a special time as this.
Absolutely. Thank you for coming, our first guest here. Love you so much. Kary, for someone who doesn't know anything about the family, the history, your heart in how God has called you to be his hands and feet in the space that he has, tell our viewers just a little bit of that background.
Yeah, I can't help but start with my father and mother, really, and they were my parents. My father actually wandered into a Billy Graham crusade by accident. He saw a crowd, walked forward, 14, didn't know what to do with it, but he got saved at that moment. But then years later went to Stanford Business School and decided that was his heart. When he really got serious about his faith, was starting his first company. And at that time, he began to have the existential doubts that many Christians do, that maybe I'm supposed to go only into ministry. And he instead just prayerfully was led to realize that God was calling him to business, was his ministry, and that is ministry. If you're called to be a policeman or a doctor or wherever you are is your ministry, if that's where you're called. So that allowed him to do a lot of neat things that many ministries aren't able to do, because he could build on the resources due to the businesses, and that allowed him to be very strategic. He got very excited about the advent of the internet as this began to go, and how we could use technology and through business financing for ultimate sustainability to really reach and impact the kingdom. So that's a lot of things he experimented with, as everyone did with the internet rolling out. God allowed this technology for some reason, and of course the devil sometimes feels like he gets there before we do as Christians, but there's no reason we can't actually take advantage of what the Lord has given us to foster the world great awakening.
Awesome. Let's go back to the 80s, 90s. Tell us about how your father, he's such an awesome man of God, love him so much, how he entered into the technological space, and how the Lord first spoke to him about the revelation that in technology there is quite a lot of ministry opportunity.
There is, yeah, and he was, at first began by doing what many should do, which is how do I just apply my principles of Christianity into the business and faith at work, and there's a lot of things there, and he began to work on that space of that God is doing a lot through business. He does believe that the next great awakening will largely come through business, actually, to mention the mountains that you mentioned. So he began to realize it wasn't just, there was more opportunity than even just living your faith at work, as we should all do, but that actually he could begin to make an impact. So he began, I think it was some of the early things with Yahoo and then Google to say, how can we begin to try to reach people, much like an advertiser might try to reach how do we reach the lost? And that was a really wonderful opportunity that he began with some people to ministry that's still running today, but that did that very effectively, very cost effectively, to say, can we get our message, how can we find the seekers, where are they? The 99, if we're looking for the lost one, technology could help, this kind of a thing. So I think that was very rewarding. Began to build a community. What came out of that was a group called Hope with God on Facebook that went to about 20 million people, and it was wonderful. We've since given it to the Luis Palau organization to manage and maintain, and that was a very rewarding opportunity for him to see how we could really supercharge the effort of the kingdom through technology.
Amazing.
That's great. So, like, you're saying that your dad created these things. Were these it sounds like it's like the first type of digital evangelist, because there's a lot of what I think some of my friends call themselves TikTok evangelists and stuff like that. So your dad used marketing as a way of evangelism and reaching and sharing the gospel. Is that what I'm hearing?
In one part, yes, correct. And just using, a lot of it was experimentation or ideating how could we do what could do it, and some of it was actually the ability to fund the effort, because many ministries, a lot of people were doing a lot of things as a singular person, which is all wonderful too, but sometimes, boy, if we could put together a team that could do this or build, it would take resources. A lot of it was new. There was a lot of what can we do? And that would be the sort of strategic capability, someone calling apostolic calling or gifting, to put teams together and the resources needed to go do that. Whereas many ministries did very well to try to apply some of the technology to what their ministry was. He could take the blank sheet approach, if you will, try to do marketing. I would say he was trying to use marketing lingo to try to reach the lost per se. It was more about the facilitation that technology enabled from a marketing ability to reach, to study, to understand who are these demographics, what are their needs. And I think that we began a lot of fun discussions. I was like, okay, where is the Lord when you have a tsunami? I think there was a large Japan tsunami back then at the time, and things like, where's the what do you do when the movie The Passion came out? Well, people want to talk about it. They want to, how do you, I wanted to Google it to find out something. That's we take that for granted today, but that was new if you were, and nobody had thought about it. So, I bet we could buy some advertising for a place like that to say, well, where is God in a natural disaster? Or what is this about the passion, and what is God saying to you? And began to try to enable the digital activity that allowed a lot of people immediate democratized access into a very worldwide community of people discussing these things.
That's beautiful.
It's amazing. Kary, you're one of the more humble brothers that I've ever met in my life, including your dad. And we all know that it's all God's story, and it all goes back to God is the author and perfecter of our faith. And as Christians, all we want to do is what God wants us to do. Our own life, our very breath in our lungs, we know that it's not just borrowed time, it's an opportunity to bring light into the dark places. And technology especially, there's no words to describe how horrifyingly quick this has evolved. I mean, not even, we're talking internet barely came out decades ago, just decades. And then YouTube came out.
And then devices.
And then devices came out.
Handheld devices.
And I mean, it's like, for you to be and your family in that space and then watching the announcement, look at this, it's a iPad, it's an iPod, and now the social media, where now everyone is joined. I mean, I can't imagine all the opportunities, first and foremost, all the rabbit holes of all the information and discovery and research and development that you and your family had to go to, all with the one true north compass, how do we reach the world with love, hope, and faith using technology and what's in our hand? What an incredible search and discovery that is, to be led by the Holy Spirit in the way that he has led you. Help us understand, how did Tuvu come about? How did the Lord speak to you and lead you, knowing it's all of his leading and it's his story, and we just give all the glory back to God. But seeing where Tuvu is today is really exciting. So help us understand and bridge the couple decades now of how that came about, how the Lord spoke and led now to seeing Tuvu come to life.
Great question. I mean, what happened was he began to do these initiatives such as Hope with God and others that they were behind, and another one that was reaching a lot of people online. Realized something my dad noticed was happening. I say we collectively. I feel like really he was leading the charge on this. He noticed that it would be one thing to get them saved, but that it would often be hard to try to figure out how to keep them connected or to keep up with them. We loosely defined the issue as actually salvation is often paramount for us, right? We think of this incredible, but as we really know when you've been walking around, it's actually just your beginning. It shouldn't be the mountaintop experience. It is, but it should be that now is the beginning of your new life. And so that second part, which he would loosely define that area of discipleship, was the next nut to start to crack. So we'll always get better and better at evangelism, we always should, but then we want to make sure that we do something with them. So much like my dad wandered for 14 years old to 30 after the Billy Graham, it was so lost to a period of time. It was unfortunate because nobody connected with him. He didn't have, nobody knew he was there. I mean, there was no connectivity there. So I think he was trying to crack the code on this at the time. And he also realized another thing, and that was with Hope with God and some of these other things, they were really wonderful to see, but we also began to see a slight disadvantaging going on for Christian activity in the world of tech. As I said earlier, the enemy often tries to get there first, right? I think God allows for us to have discoveries in technology. He is the ultimate of technology, obviously, and he reveals little bits at a time there to us. And so the devil gets a hold of that as fast as he can to try to stop or thwart the kingdom. And as God does so well, as he leapfrogs later, and the devil overplays his hand, and so many times over and over again. So as he's been trying to crack that nut on, okay, how can we do that? He created a platform around discipleship. It was a little too early, a little hard to figure out what things to do. And he simultaneously noticed that some of the bigger platforms, it felt like a very serious disadvantaging for Christian activity and value. We saw that quite early on, especially in the pro-life areas and things like this, that it was a little startling that these weren't just neutral providers that were using technology. They began to use technology, whether they intended to or just the devil did it indirectly, to try to thwart that. So as he was thinking of those things, like how do we work on that, we began to realize that we better start to create some platform built specifically for the kingdom. And unfortunately, we can't just trust that some neutral technology will treat all equally and fairly, because the enemy doesn't want that. So if a Christian-led technology, the better. And though Christians can use some of these secular technology very effectively and very well, there is a disadvantage going there when the spirit over there is not necessarily of the Lord. And so as that happened, we began looking at ways to try to create an alternative to what today would, or what back then would be a little more social media, and we think it's evolving from there. But to say, can we create a Christian platform where the Christians can begin to connect not only with each other, but with the new Christians that are coming? So we said that in by revival and your efforts around the world and things like this, we have a lot of new people discovering the Lord. It's just exciting as can be. And so how do we make sure that they get plugged in and connected and also to grow? And then we decided that we could have we might be able to provide a lot of other ways that are not going to be naturally addressed by secular endeavors, because they're just not focused on prayer, or that's just not in their mindset. So they weren't built for those kind of things. So with Tuvu, we began this idea to say, okay, how can we create something from the ground up? As we did, we were trying to figure out, okay, who can lead this this idea? And it came back from a few people, including one that I thought might be a candidate. Said, you should do it, Kary. I really feel that. So my dad and I, we prayed, and we said, okay, Kary, I think the Lord would say, let's do this. Let's start this. And right as soon as I agreed to take on this initiative, let's go build this out, I caught COVID for the first time, and somehow I had gone a long time without catching COVID, and I was on my back and in and out of sleep a lot, and I had a dream, and the Lord came to me in a dream, and he said, now throw your net on the other side of the boat. And I knew exactly what he meant. I knew he was talking about this. I had just accepted to do this role, to take this on in an operational capacity as opposed to just behind the scenes. And only like the Lord can do, I knew he was saying a million things with one phrase, and infinite things, really. And we had tried a first effort at something like this, and it didn't work out well. And so we were kind of licking our wounds, starting over, trying to be, okay, now what can we do? And so I knew he was saying, I know it felt like, I said, I feel like the story in the Lord. I feel like I fished all night with this last project we tried that didn't work out. And so, yet, if you say, I'm very happy, I know that you're going to do it. But I knew another thing. I said, okay, I know that story. And in that story, he says, now I'll teach you to be fishers of men when they do throw the fish and the net over the side of the boat. And I said, okay, that this is about evangelism. And my first thought, it was about that point of evangelism. But connecting that with what we had early experienced, that evangelism isn't just the salvation moment, it's the beginning of the walk, it's the discipleship, it's the growth. It's the go make disciples, not just evangelists, not just converts, right? It's discipleship. And so I said, okay, we need to apply both. And that's where we believe Tuvu really fits that opportunity to say, can we help the new worldwide movement of Christians coming to Christ to connect with the body of Christ digitally in a safe environment? One of the other things I knew by that was we knew this was a business opportunity. We support many ministries. Some ministries make all the sense in the world to be ministries. Sometimes businesses can be a vehicle that's better for ministry than a business. Again, we talk about sustainability and ability to finance these kind of things. Sometimes for ministry is very hard if you're continually fundraising. Businesses, and there's so many great Christian businesses we all know and love out there that show this out there as a business. They are able to do a lot of great work. We love Hobby Lobby, Chick-fil-A. They are able to do a lot of great Christian ministry work support because their business sustains them. But their main core business sustains because they have a great product and service that they offer. So in that same light, we said, okay, this model has to be different. And I knew that because he had said, throw your net on the other side of the boat. And I thought, okay, that was very unusual in Israel because they had a standard procedure in which you throw to one side, but here the other side didn't make sense. But okay, Lord, if that's what you say. And I also knew it meant it. So it meant a different model. And for us, that meant a subscription-based model as opposed to a advertising-based model. Advertising is a great model in certain cases, and this is something that was more innovative. It wasn't as common or as widely seen back then. So we became a subscription-based community platform to do all of these things together in a sustainable business.
Now, I love that. I remember 25 years ago, and I still feel very, very young. I saw YouTube come, and then in the 90s, the way to get a message out was through DVD. And then when you do a DVD, you then learn this term about burning a DVD. And Gen Z has no idea what I'm talking about here. But I remember I wanted to use technology to reach the world for Jesus, and the technology at my fingertips was a DVD. So I spoke at a church, recorded 3 messages, put the DVDs together, started selling the DVDs. We went to Indonesia, and on street corners in the biggest Islamic country in the world, people are selling the DVD for $1.50. And my coordinator is like, I'm so sorry, Han. He's like, I'm so sorry, Indonesian people. They don't understand copyright, right to copy. And I'm like, it's awesome, like be able to have people like just get that message. And it went to prisons in Indonesia as well. And so whatever it is, like using whatever you have at your fingertips. And then that DVD got ripped on a YouTube channel from an Indian guy in India. And we didn't tell him to take it down because it had like 50, 60, 70 million hits pre-2010.
Yeah.
Who had that? No one. And then I was one of the organic Facebook accounts. I just want people to understand a little bit more context in other platforms out there. I saw it firsthand. What you're mentioning, I want people to understand it. So back in 2011, the Lord spoke to me in showing me that YouTube could be an incredible spine to reach the world, but no one's actually tapping into things like multi-language content. Back then in 2011, the technology, it was Google Translate that just came out in 2011. I already was traveling the world a lot, 275 days on the road. I already done 1,000 speeches by 2010. I had already been at 40 countries. And as social media was starting, I had a MySpace account. Then Facebook came. And I knew Facebook before Facebook Today was Facebook Today. And back then, there was no thing like algorithms. There was no shadow banning. There was no flagging on many things that now exist today. I saw it firsthand. So I was an organically growing Facebook account. I actually got a communicative, congratulatory message from Facebook saying that I am the most engaging, organically growing viral account that they had in 2011, 2012. Sorry, it was 2013 because I actually preached the gospel in 2013 in front of 26 countries, met 5 presidents, spoke in front of 7 governments, and everyone was jumping on Facebook. That's where we hit millions of Facebook fans right there and then. The shadow banning started coming in the early teens, 14, 15. I noticed my traction being suppressed. Impressions, sharing, all that just changed. I'm like, what is going on? So for you to understand that even today, even 2 weeks ago, we tried to put some ads on these platforms and we don't get approved because the word God is in it or pro-life is in it, whatever that is, it's really suppressed. And so this suppression isn't made up. It's real. And I've experienced it firsthand as of 13, 12 years ago. And to know that God was stirring up your heart and your family to make the alternative. And as we're learning more and more and more, I'm not just talking about AI, but the realization, I think a lot of the world has woken up to more knowledge and understanding of weaponization. Weaponization in whether it's in the banking industry, wealth management industry, it's also in big tech. And I think it was the first point where we saw, wow, tech, like the Facebooks, like Instagram, do have some favoritism, do shadow ban, do algorithms sometimes, and I have experienced that. But to see an alternative where you also have understood and brought awareness, Kary, to many people that all of our data is all being shared and sold. And I don't think we really knew about this 7, 8 years ago. I mean, we're talking 2019, 2018. We knew some stuff was going on, but it was almost like the curtain was open to say, oh yeah, there is no privacy whatsoever. All your email, all your tracking, all the clicks, all the swipes, like it's all like methodically funneling you towards an action of some point. I want you to share your experience on this too, because we're the same age. We saw it coming. We've been working together for many, many years. Help people understand what we saw.
Yeah, I mean, because I've been working with you, been working with Nick alongside for the past 12 years, and seeing the content, because here's what I'm seeing in the synergy, if I can just zoom in on this, is that it seems like you and your family are like the ones that build the surfboard, and people like Nick ride the surfboard, use the tools that you guys are creating. And the way that we experienced it on other platforms that are not like Tuvu, that are not faith-based or Christian-based, it's like Nick was saying, it's that it's almost like we'll show it to the audience that wants to hear that, and we won't show it to the audience that needs to hear that. Because that's the point of it, right? We're trying to create the content that for the people who need to hear it, and we're trying to reach those that are not hearing the message. And so it's changed a little bit. It's gotten a little bit better, but yeah, definitely throughout the years we've experienced that and we've seen that. But allow me to zoom in now a little bit more. So it's like you guys are building the surfboard, and people like Nick with a massive platform globally are the ones that ride that surfboard, if that makes sense, use that surfboard. And I have the opportunity of like being on this side, and whether you guys agree with me or not, I'm more like the normal Joe at the table, and I get to see these beautiful things, because it's like, Kary, you and your family are like those that have built what Nick has built in public, you guys have built in private. And it's like God has his assignment, God has your assignment, and the synergy that we get to experience is incredible. But in light of that synergy and connection that you keep talking about, I think that something that keeps coming up in what you're saying, if I could just zoom in just a tiny bit, is you keep mentioning you and your dad. You keep mentioning your dad. And correct me if I'm wrong, I think the thought is that there is something deep there between you and your dad. Because if there wasn't, you wouldn't care to connect the world. If there was no connection at home, if there was no connection between you and your dad, I'm assuming that there'd be no care in your heart to even connect people in the world, because you keep mentioning connection. But I keep hearing you and your dad. So how has your relationship with your father and that experience of your upbringing, like, has put you to say yes to to say yes to not just the dream, but to be part of the Tuvu team, to be part of, like, the phrase that I was hearing as you were talking about it is like, to be about my father's business. Because, you know, like, some people I don't want to do what my dad's doing. Like, I don't want to be in my dad's shadow, all that stuff. But there sounds like there's this joy and there's this, like, massive yes in your heart as you're saying this. And I'm curious to know what a little bit of that history and story there.
Oh, I'm very excited that you pick up on that, my heart on that too, because it's so true. I do feel uniquely blessed, perhaps sadly these days, that so many didn't have a father that so modeled the Lord to me that I feel I have been given something that many haven't, and that I need to do. To whom much is given, much is expected. That I have a wonderful blessing, I think, in terms of a way that I can look at God because of the way that my father did. I have so much respect for people who came to Christ that didn't have a father that might have modeled that or might have lived that out, and they get a chance to do this for their kids. And I think it's just so, and I have sometimes more respect for them, because I said, boy, I guess I needed it in my case, and they didn't. So God's given them a special a grace as well for what they've done. And so I do feel, and of course it feels unfair because it's so easy for me to honor my father. I mean, I feel others who have to honor their fathers maybe a little more challenging, but for me it's very, very easy, very clear. And I do feel like I'm the one who's been given 10 talents, and it wasn't about me. It's about, I just got that. The Lord gave it to me. I better do it. But maybe what the Lord has done there is many things, including, can this be an example for others and for others? Can be an inspiration for others to say, I want that for my kids. And maybe, and it's never too late if you're still here. Maybe the kids are gone from it, but we've been able to work more together now than I spent growing up with them. And you think about it, because we office together every day for many years now, and so it's it's been a particular joy to me and a benefit. And I love that. I often say I'm about my father's business, especially because we kind of tend to be a business focused on our efforts for ministry, and so we do that. And my dad has also just long believed in me, and I really am so amazed that he has been willing to. This has not been an easy project. It's a lot of faith here, actually. It's love to say at customer day one has just grown nice and linearly. That is so a lot of faith that he's had to step into believes not only in the project, but believes that I'm one to execute it. It's not about nepotism. It's about trying to put where we are. My other brother's focus is ministry, and he really is working. And he'd be great in business too if he does, and he dabbles. But I mean, his heart and his passion was there, and so it's a different expression of the same thing, of God's work, the Father's business that we're both about. So I love that. I do want to translate. I hope that that's something that we can even foster and help people through to. We do imagine that actually families will come together, and of course, with a singular relationship between fathers, and they can call each other, they don't necessarily need another platform for that. But I think if we can model that, especially to the world that's hurting, I think you've spoken about this. There is a crisis of fatherhood out there, or rather a lack of it out there, and of course people are lost, and of course people are hurting, and of course people are doing things, and maybe many times you can track some of that to the difficulty of not having a father. Right. And I think it may have been Jack Hayford who was telling us at one point, and many have said this, that the way that your father was with you is going to sort of affect how at first you look at God, because that is your father. And so if you haven't had that, if he was distant father, you may feel God's more distant, and you're going to have to learn to overcome that. That's not how God is. And so is the opposite is true, that if you'll be very if all the wonderful things that you do emanate as a father, that it's going to be easier for your kids to see this in God. So it's really an opportunity, and if we can, it's one thing to do this internally in your own family, which is so great, but it's another thing if you can externally model this, or at least serve as an inspiration to, even if it's one other family or one other person, or the more that you can, the better. And I do believe this is a role that Tuvu will play is trying to show how do family relationships work for Christians. We unfortunately get branded sometimes unfairly by the media that is secular as to, Christians may be judgmental, and they don't really understand us. They haven't really seen a lot of good examples of us because their world is not surrounded by it, or they haven't, or just the enemy that likes to throw unfair attacks. Here's a case where, though, if there's a lot of examples of modeling this and something that others can kind of connect with and see, and then begin to replicate in their own family, or be inspired by, or get ideas from, and people have written great books about it, they've done great conference about this. Is just one more layer the Lord's adding to show and model, hey, who are some of the better methods for, or what are some of the better methods that fathers and sons are using to connect, and how do they work together? And it may not always work for everyone, that they get called to different areas of the ministry or the kingdom, but in ours, we're very blessed that we do.
That's awesome. And I know how family is important, faith is important, and we share the same heart, and we're equally yoked when we are burdened for America and the Church of America. What I love is we also are very kindred spirit in the essence of, Nick V Ministries. We try and reach the lost, but we don't do it outside of the church. We kind of want to partner with the church. And I'd like you to help us understand a little bit of Tuvu's mission in equipping the church and using this as a tool. I understand the community. I understand as an influencer what this could mean for our followers and different tiers and structures and groups and such. But talk about the church, your heart for the church, your Father's heart for the church as well, where you really are tabling this incredible tool chest, if you will, of, hey, this is what you can use for your community, engaging the next generation. Because, unfortunately, there's a lot of people for sure who will never come to church. We know that.
Yeah.
And actually the greatest church that I can say in America, who's actually on the front edge of technological ways in how they can actually meet people where they're at who will never come to church, 99.9% of these people, are the ones who are addicted actually to VR headsets, virtual reality. And so there's about, I think the number is, 450 million people in the world are actually daily in virtual reality. And a lot of suicides are happening, a lot of isolation, a lot of fragmentation, a lot of mental health things. And there is always going to be a certain amount of people that will never ever come to a four-walled church. Out in Calvary, Fort Lauderdale, Doug Sauter, they have every church service on Sunday live streaming into VR headsets.
Wow.
And they have staff in VR talking to the people in VR as they're actually having the service. And more people are coming on the VR church service and giving their life to Jesus Christ in VR. Now, I've done keynotes in VR. It's been incredible, where I'm an avatar and I actually had hands. It was awesome. And the other thing is, no one had feet. It was cool. and it was so amazing, like where technology is going. We understand that, we're going to reach the people where they're at. And so there are going to be people who will never come to church, but that the church has that responsibility to be the light to the people who will never come to church. Yes, but talk to us about the people that are coming to church, or since COVID are just watching church now from their bed. How does Tuvu help equip and really fortify and edify the body of Christ and our impact in our local community as a church in America?
It's a great question, and in fact, there's a concern for a lot of pastors that, wow, the world's changing, going digital, and I think they've got it the wrong way around. It actually is the greatest force multiplier they've ever seen. They just haven't caught the wave of the surfboard yet, and when they do, I think they'll be shocked, and those who do it well will actually do very well, and will find it even easier to build church than ever. Do not forsake the fellowship in the saint. We definitely want to get together, and yet there are people that live far away from church. A lot of reasons they can't get there. A fascinating book that came out called De-Churched. It's really interesting, and while it sounds threatening, it sounds terrible, these people leaving church, it's actually, I think it's the greatest opportunity for those who will take this seriously. And the way to do it is digital, and it's so much more. The first generation, of course, with COVID and the quarantine, was live streaming video to be able to apply. I do fear that many churches would see that as, oh boy, they're going to stop coming, and who pays for the building, and we're not getting together anymore. And so there was a little bit of this tension. Some embraced it very quickly, and they're happy, and they grew very very large, and they're much larger than they ever were. And yet it's not the full story of where that's headed. Where it's headed is, and to use what you were talking about, the virtually, is actually connectivity. And if the connectivity works, what happens is, we see this happen on Tuvu all the time. People begin to get to meet each other, or they begin to watch at a distance. But they actually, if they start to interact, and that's where Tuvu comes in. We come in on the interaction for churches digitally, for them to be able to let their members interact. Actually, what happens is they start to get to know each other. They actually want to get together with them. And I'd love to meet. If you're ever in Dallas, come give me a call.
Yeah.
I mean, this happens regularly. It actually is the exact opposite of what you might think. Oh, I don't need to meet you. I've already met you online. No, they eventually want to start to we should get together. Hey, it would be really fun if we all got together and broke bread together. I mean, there's something there that churches are actually missing. So many times the larger churches are doing so much great work to try to, if a new person gets in, to try to reach a greeter to say hello and stuff. But often they can, just like my dad, can walk in and Billy Graham and will walk out, and we're unnoticed a bit and unintentionally. But yet if we can find a way to help them to digitally connect, like we would suggest Tuvu can do, they'll actually have a much better way to try to pull them into the kingdom. When I talked about throwing the net on the other side of the boat, I originally thought it just meant evangelism for evangelism's sake, that moment that we all love of the sinner's prayer. But actually, I think it was a lot more about pulling the net into the church, into the boat, this sort of a thing. And that's where, when you really realize what's happening, that it isn't so much, I think, that people are just, I'm tired of going and meeting together with people. No, it's actually growing a lot with new people that don't have the traditional interaction with church that we grew up maybe in our time having. So that's actually new to them altogether. They've just watched the church, not because they don't want to go, it's because they've discovered it and they're watching the church on the platform. And so it has, and it's not built, other than if it's just live stream, it's not built for how are we guys now going to get together around this or that. Yeah, the Sunday service are on such and such a date and such location. However, again, the guy might be in Maine, another in Alaska, and another. So how do you begin to try to pull these things together? It will grow the church and the excitement.
It's really exciting. I mean, from my perspective, I mean, I'm never someone that discourages anyone from doing good, okay? But as an evangelist, I've been in now 84 countries, spoken 3,500 times in front of 11 million people face to face. Out of 11 million people, about 1.8 million gave their life to Jesus Christ and confessed their sin, repented of their sin. When you look at the last 30, 40 years, Reinhard Bonnke had the most incredible follow-up deal in Africa, where he would plant a church in every single village where all the people came from. That follow-up is so important from an evangelist point of view, from an event point of view, from then the follow-up point of view. It's so important. All of it's important. But generally speaking, many larger ministries pay $1 million to have an event, and let's call it 100,000 people come, and 10,000 give their life to Jesus. The stats are 3% of the people who gave their life to Jesus Christ find a local church. Now, if you go further down there, what's half the church talking about? What's half the church going to teach them about? And so when you spend so much money for then 100,000 people down to 300 people, who half of them, 150 find a pretty good church, let's say that's pretty conservative, to then what? I mean, it's just amazing that leverage power, that Surfboard is incredible. And I speak from a first person point of view, where I've had countless people come up to me and crying, saying that video changed my life. That book changed my life. That event, live streaming, changed my life. And I'll never forget, we were engaged with a third party where at an event, we had 3,000 people on standby, ready to text the people who just scanned the code, who gave their life to Jesus Christ. And then someone texts them, hey, how are you? Is this a bot? No, it's not. And they tested a couple times to prove it's not. Well, someone gave their life to Jesus from their home, and they're chatting with one of our, we used to call them coaches at that time. If you're not a bot, I don't believe in God at all. I signed up because I just wanted to talk to someone. I'm about to commit suicide. And if you're not a bot, show it to me. And there was an intervention of an attempted suicide. He cut himself, and the police were called by our guys. and came in, took him to an ICU, and he survived. He then later gave his life to Jesus Christ. It's incredible where you got to meet the generation where they're at, and unfortunately, you are 10 times less confident to really share your feelings. No one shares their feelings with anybody. No one really has an atmosphere at all in church. How are you? Good. God bless you. God bless you. I'm praying for you. You're not praying for me. You're lying in church. Like the reality is if this next generation doesn't grow in deep discipleship and healing in their heart and having a real community as we ought to be, and going back to the real church, which is still gather, but let's be real. Yeah. Don't just come here, go to church and go to a small group. No, how are you? You know, I've had teenagers cry and say, Nick, I said, what is one thing that your church has failed you in? And she's crying. She says, I have friends who are cutting themselves and my church never taught me how to reach them. Just in Washington, D.C. this year, we were at the National Day of Prayer, and I spoke there at one of the events. And this girl says, Nick, how do I reach my friends? Half of them come to church, and 80% of them are pornographically addicted. And so to be able to open up and have kind of like focus groups for the topics that churches don't really want to talk about, for being in a generation in the times that we're in where they're addicted to technology 7 hours a day, that's where they're talking. That's where they're receiving information. And so this is really poignant here for such a time as this. This is huge.
Yeah.
This is not a technological platform alternative choice. This is like, I'm sorry, but 70% of the next harvest. And if you don't invest in this as a pivot, as not an alternative, but the way that the world is receiving a lot of information, meeting them where they're at, and actually more comfortable to talk about, how are you doing? At a 0 out of 10, depression, yeah, I'm pretty depressed today. When was the last time you've talked to someone face to face about your feelings? Never. And I think this is the calling of us now to utilize this platform. And I just wanted to share that from a first-hand perspective. I'm so burdened. That's why I'm not going to churches anymore. I'm not. I don't know what happens later. We're developing Bible studies for young people and technological platforms and content to meet them where they're at, because that's what I think the church is really lacking right now. Yeah. Reality and engagement on the things we should be talking about and the way that we should be talking about it. But
so that's what it sounds like. Yeah, what they're trying to accomplish, right?
The opportunity is pretty impressive. It is a lot of weird things happening as the world's evolving. You have more connectivity than ever online, but you have more loneliness than ever. What's going on there? What is it really about? Connectivity only? No, it's about community and healthy community. Yeah. A lot of the churches, and I'm very thankful for every church that's serving the Lord and Jesus. And no one's perfect. We're all messing, and we all have our weaknesses in every church. But the smaller churches can often have a community, but they don't have the economy of scale or the ability to do things with a certain quality that it brings a lot more growth, or they're in a geographical location that just isn't very big. The larger churches get very, very good at a lot of the content delivery of the word of the Lord and of the worship service together, but then the community might suffer because of the largesse, and it's not their fault. I mean, they're trying to figure it out too, and I think that's where we are really trying to solve those two things, actually. When you talked about these issues are very hard to talk about, there is a power of the collective that the Lord can be so-called support groups, right, where people all are suffering around the same thing. It doesn't need to be one singular pastor person having to solve everybody's problem. It can often be the support group itself praying through issues that might be. You mentioned another one that came to me very surprising, the reason I just hadn't thought about it, eating disorders. It's significant, especially among women in churches. And it was something like 1 out of every 2 or 4 women, something like you see in the church. And men have it too, but a larger in the women. And there's just nothing. And many times the pastor has no idea about that that's even a problem. And yet they need to have an ability to try to find support support with others that are able to. So that democratization. But how do you facilitate the democratization of the communication inside of community? And that's where technology can scale. And that's what we're excited about. It'd be too hard to do it in a 1-hour service. You couldn't pass the microphone to everybody. It would never work. Right? It doesn't build for that, and that's not its purpose per se there. It is the small groups and a lot of the things that you can sort of begin to create that sort of effect.
Sorry, as an individual as well, who we all have a testimony, right? And so I'll never forget, there was a recording of a church service, and the pastor said, raise your hand if you know that you've had at least one miracle happen in your life over the last 12 months. 90% of the people raised their hand. Wow. And I was thinking, man, how cool would it be if we actually shared that? So it's also an individual collective of, I'm going to pray for you, you pray for me. Hey, I need accountability on this. That doesn't happen in church. I need accountability on this. Pray for me on this. Let's share the testimony. Let's pray for that country. Let's pray for this design, like a first responders kind of thing as well, that it is the church. We are the church. And so from a church perspective, from an influencer perspective, and an individual out there, there's just a lot of opportunities.
Yeah, because it sounds like what you guys are attempting to do is bridge Sunday to Sunday. Right,
well said.
There's some jadedness in between because the church, what the common conversation or words that we're using is spiritual family, community, but people might experience that on a Sunday when they walk in, they feel greeted, and then there's the loneliness in between, and you're trying to bridge that and actually make spiritual family a reality within this actual connectivity and connection, rather than just, hey, I see you today, welcome, happy Sunday, and then I don't know you again until next Sunday.
Yeah, because it's too hard for them to do everything, right? So why not enlist the power of the collective? And that's where we do come in, exactly. Sunday to Sunday, and then the community itself. So that's one thing that then the pastor, you'll run out of time every day. I mean, these pastors burn out. Right. I mean, they can't answer every call. They can't do every email. But I think they can actually further democratize. And the issue is they'll jump to church and say, okay, we want to plug them in, so let's instantly get them into a membership class or get into volunteering. And that's a good step, but it's quite a jump for a new person, especially if they're not yet even a believer, right? Like, whoa, I'm not there yet. And so how do you better facilitate that interaction and to find those people?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, because you're what you're saying is like people want the connection. Like let's go back to social media platforms. They're not so social anymore, right? What started off as something that was supposed to be good and it felt nice, right? When Instagram came out and we're like, oh, look at my friend's photos. Like, here's these. And then all of a sudden, in turn, I think that what happens is that the power and the control behind the scenes gets really tempting. And now it's like, how do I get Kary to think a certain way? How do I get Nick to think a certain way? And now it's like there's that element, that temptation. Like you're saying, the enemy tries to get control on the back end and so on. And you guys are creating a different, I guess you can call it a different wave on a brand new surfboard, I think, if that makes any sense. And it's like,
and half of, I might say, of the job of the pastor, I believe, is to, as a shepherd, is to feed, and the other half is to protect. I mean, they didn't carry the staff to beat the sheep up. I mean, they were beating the wolves off, right? So but that was an important thing, and I think a lot of the loving pastor feels so called because they care so much that part's a little harder for them. But they just love people, they just love sheep, and it is a part of a role. And I think what happens is that when you see that, you'll see that the enemy is out there roaming, and so you see a lot of churches will use these big tech platforms. And there's an example of a big church here in Dallas-Fort Worth area, and we went to their group on another platform, and they did not respond. This is not their fault, but we recorded it to show them what was happening. And as their people went to find their group on that platform, somebody has bought the ads in front of it that if it was effectively, it was showing things like I'm almost hesitant to say on a podcast, so you can delete if it's inappropriate, but there was a strippers club it was recommending. There was there was a gal in lingerie, and this is in front of the person going to the church group. Wow. So that's not AI saying, oh, they love this, the perfect market. No, there's somebody's predatory trying to reach there. I really predict if you went to the recovery, it'd be a lot of big pharma ads, and if you went to everything that the church talked about. You said about selling the data, one, and then two, some not good actors might be buying that data for inserting what they want to try to 100%. Derail. Whoever it is, it's the enemy in one way or another they're trying to get people off track. Oh, mental health, you don't need the church, you need some other treatment instead, right? And so it's the devil trying to offer alternatives this way. I'd be very worried about going to the men's group there in that case, and it wasn't the church's fault. I mean, they're not savvy. Somebody's buying that. So then who is doing that? That's my example of how, and it's well known, how predators get on these platforms. They get on so the effort that you spend time really fighting off the sheep is important. I often liken Tuvu to Nehemiah building as walls sitting around the city for protection. And as he built it, he was building with one hand with a tool, and the other hand was a weapon to fight off the bad guys. And ironically, because he was so prepared, he didn't have much battle to fight, but that he had to keep it. It undoubtedly slowed them down. So I do feel a big part of what Tuvu's done is to try to work a lot on that moderation and all that stuff to protect the sheep as much as to facilitate the feeding. And that makes sense.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. I mean, because I'm thinking about it as you're saying it, it's like what the three of us have in common is that we're all fathers. And this matters to us because in protecting our sheep, I'm thinking about my 4 boys. Like, technology is trying to touch them already. Like, and it's trying to get their attention. It's trying to distract them here and there. And it's sad that we live in a world where it's like we have to monitor everything, literally everything for our children, even things on whatever YouTube Kids or things that are kids platforms. Like, everything has to be monitored because you just don't know how the subtle attack or the subtle temptation is going to come in, right? And it sounds like what more than a platform, you guys are trying to build like an actual healthy, godly, safe place online for the church to connect Sunday to Sunday, for the families to connect. If, for example, you have your kids going to college, you can still connect with them on a healthy platform. You don't have this random ad showing up in front of them that you have to be concerned about, right? Because I'm assuming you're also thinking as a dad behind all this, and you're thinking as a dad as you're talking about the influence and how, like, there's only so much we can do, right? Like, as fathers, to protect our kids and so on. And so how has that even played a role with you guys in Tuvu, and like just you and your dad, and then you as a father, and and
Well, we're very excited about, again, what we believe is that a family, they might be able to just call each other and they might not need another platform if it's one-on-one, but it is this ability for families to begin to model what a good family is like, can allow for young children. So I have a friend who's more extreme than I even was, and he moved to town. He went to 60 different churches to interview them about their youth program. And he said, is your youth program on? And he named one of the big popular tech platforms you would be familiar with. And they said, well, yes, of course. I said, why? I fight a battle at home, and I don't let them on those, and they're going to be left behind on this. And don't you know the wolves and things that are inside of these platforms, because they don't worry about those issues for our kids. And so he was very almost apoplectic about this. So it had this, and that really resonated with me as well. And I said, it's really true. We want a place where you want your kids. So in COVID and quarantine, my daughter wanted to share pictures of her dolls to her friends because she couldn't see them, and I couldn't let her on the big tech platform because of that. I was just too nervous. And one of the things I deal with is a funny comment comes to me. I'm talking about you're trying to fight off the wolf. When the wolf tries to latch on the kid, you start hitting the wolf, but the kid sometimes think you're hitting him. I'm not hitting you. I'm hitting the wolf. And you're trying.
Definitely.
So you're like, so the best thing is to try to, the more prevention further out the wall you can build, the better. And it is something that's a value, right? And you don't want to have you really want to encourage your kids to get into a place where, imagine a place where when the kids inside of a youth group aren't being picked off by the wolf because there's no wall around that city. They're using a secular platform that may not be bad by itself, but the problem is the walls weren't built for worried about wolves of sheep. I mean, that's not what they do. But that's where we can come in and say, okay, you can put your kids, their kids can be fail. I said, if I could build a platform where my daughter, I could feel safe that she's on there sharing with kids, because of course I want her to have some interaction. That's a great, fun way to interact with people. I don't call you about every single thing, but if I could show you some little updates throughout the week and you check in when you want, see how I'm doing and stuff without having to pick up the phone to make it didn't rise to a level of phone call. That is one of those things where I think we can do that. And as the families begin to connect, as you see a lot of, I don't exactly believe in a complete monastic where we're pulled out of the world so much we don't interact with them. But there is this tension that we see that Paul talks about, this tension of being, hey, don't even have fellowship inside the church with people misbehaving, this kind of a thing, right? The fellowship needs to be very clean. But Paul's not saying leave the world. I mean, we need to be doing both. So we may use some of these platforms to try to do outreach, but we really want to be safe on side of how we do connect in fellowship.
Look, so there's two things that just, I for those of you who don't understand this, you need to understand this. there's two big things. Why make a choice to change platform? Number one, I actually have been, in the last couple of months, being texted every second week by someone I know who knows someone, so 1 degree away, who's been lured, trapped, brainwashed by someone coercing them to become human trafficked.
Wow.
It all started on social media, and they're absolutely convinced that they need to run out of the house and go meet a stranger.
Wow.
Every second week, the last 12 weeks. What? What? And it's not a quick thing. It's a 9 to 12 month thing. Just liking your kid's profile, liking that, and commenting here and there. It is so dangerous on that level. It is insane. It is insane. The other thing is, I come from a point where I was shut down on YouTube in 2011. That's a different story. I was shut down by my bank as a customer. I've had a grenade at my house. I've had lawsuits against me. I've had a spying drone. We've learned a lot since 2019.
Nick needs a physical protection.
Security
I'm
force.
telling you, he saw me through this. All right, so he was with me. He know a lot of my caregivers know a lot that's been happening in my life the last 8 years. It's been really, really interesting and really eye-opening in a way. But what we also understand is the weaponization. So when you understand this, like if I go to a coffee store, they make money on that coffee. From that profit, they then do whatever they want. Not only do their pockets get deeper, but they have this thing called tithing. And so there are a lot of what we would call non-aligned or misaligned or contrary aligned to Judeo-Christian values, companies out there that would actually feel good about giving to a nonprofit organization which actually is completely opposite of biblical beliefs. Now, we shouldn't be surprised that, evil does evil. However, the choice of what we do, I think of John 17, where Jesus, his last prayer was, Father, may they be one. And I think there is a giant opportunity to basically, we've heard this before, the term exit, texit, everything, right? Exit off all the big boys and the big girls' platform and the pockets, where they actually influence quite a lot of the philosophical, social policies and funding a lot of things. And so even in the banking industry, you've got larger banks that it's not uncommon that a large bank would actually tithe and philanthropically give to abortion providing nonprofit organizations such as Planned Parenthood. That also Planned Parenthood now funds, is the biggest funder, hormone altering drugs for minors in our country. Let me tell you today is, where are we? We're in August 2025. I'm looking you in the camera right now to tell you, do you know that I've been hijacked off Facebook? I've got 11 million people. No, on that one, 3 million people. It's our ministry Facebook. We've been hijacked for how many weeks now?
Almost a month now. Yeah.
I think it's closer to 6 weeks. 4 to 6 weeks. We've been hijacked. I've had to call people to know who's way high up there. I know a lot of people who know a lot of people. It still hasn't. And there's been times where we've been, this is not our first time. It's not our first time. But then I do a post on Instagram. I'm like, hey, Facebook, wake up. Because they now are the same people, right? But I'm like, I didn't want to go back to Instagram and say, hey, Facebook, can't be bothered. I couldn't care anymore. So I gave the ministry access to my 10.9 million personal pages. Do whatever you want on that one. But I've seen this coming, when you look at TikTok, when you look at all these things, and it's just unfortunate that that there isn't a lot of justice out there that you're going to find. And so the quicker we can move, migrate, unite, and see the bigger picture of what does God want. This is not Kary, Nick, and Gus telling you this is something you should consider. No, you pray to God. It's like the banking thing, like the banking choice. I'm the watchman on the wall. I call the trumpet. If someone dies, it's not, the blood's not on my hands. I blew the trumpet, but they're still coming. So get off the wall and go pick up your sword and pick up the shield and go on the front line. That's what you guys are doing. And to join you in that effort is so exciting. To have our channels up on Tuvu, there and coming, it's unbelievable. We're excited. I'm excited for influencers. I want you to know it's not a monetary decision solely at all. It's like, well, how much does it cost me? No, you got to figure out, what does the Lord want you to do? How does he want you to do it? And how can actually there be an exponential kingdom impact and integrity and protection on the online community for Christians worldwide? I mean, it's exciting.
Yeah, it's so good. I think like what we're trying to do is, I've actually been, just truth be told, I've stopped Nick from closing down.
For years, guys, I'm turning it off.
His social
I hate
medias.
him, all of them. I love him, God bless him. I hate him. I'm turning it off. Don't. Wait.
He's a little passionate about it.
I'm telling you, man.
I've been quite the victim of it.
So my hope
They don't
and goal
deserve
is,
it. No one deserves it.
So my hope and goal is, for a little while longer, that's my little phrase.
That was that bridge.
Is how many of that side can we bring over? And when you guys came into the picture, because we first got introduced.
Tell him. Tell the audience what we wanted to do, and then and you can say it in a nice way. Tell them what we were going to build. Tell them what we were close to launching. In your own words, what happened?
So a couple years ago, we were trying to build our own platform because the answer that we wanted was not out there. And that fell through. It felt like the rug got pulled from underneath very unexpectedly. And so
after 18 months and a lot of money
of investing time, money, efforts, design, all these things in the back end. Yes.
Yep.
And it definitely felt like a rug pull. Like we were like
September, October last year.
And now, and it's like, it's almost like we got left in blank, and the blank canvas. Like, where do we go now? And then,
and I said,
you said Tuvu.
I said there's one more conversation. One more conversation.
Which I believe Nick told you. He's like, Gus, we're going to try Tuvu, and if this does not work,
I'm done.
You're done.
I'm done. I'm done on social media.
The good thing is that I remember coming across Tuvu at NRB last year at the table, and I was like, I remember them. I was like, because there were several other platforms, that were trying to accomplish something similar. And you personally, and then Tuvu stood out to Nick. He's like, Gus, this is our last chance. So what I was getting to say is that definitely, like, what we're seeing is an answer to prayers, because I'm like, Nick, let's just wait. Let's just wait. We're gonna see how many we can bring over and ride that wave, if you will, and bring over into Tuvu. Because Nick is saying that, like, we have this platform you're talking about. It's not a monetary thing, and people might think, well, I can't afford that. Well, the truth is you can't afford to remain where you are.
Yeah.
More than it is a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We can't afford to stay where we are into this, how much, how casual we've gotten about where we are with technology right now. And so for us personally, we've seen it as an answer to prayer. And so that's why we're in the process of doing that right now. Like, we keep going back and forth with your team, because we're trying to make it the right thing once we start bringing people over. And we know that that's going to be a long-term thing, because I think you've experienced it already, that it's people are set in concrete right now, like almost like, this is my social media platform, until it's not, because just in January, TikTok in a second was gone.
Yep.
And everything that they've built there
it's done.
is gone. And now, and that started so much commotions, and people were getting like it was a serious thing.
And people are warm and fuzzy because of the current administration.
Yeah.
Okay. and how long is that for? Are we now guaranteed that there's not going to be a round two of tech stuff going on and other things going on? I'm not saying that trumps Jesus Christ, but at all.
No.
And you know, so many people are warm and fuzzy right now with the current administration because it feels as though, okay, we know a little bit more about this space now. We know about the cancellation. Some people are being called out, banking, social media, all that kind of stuff. But I mean, for how long is that? And so, to Gus's point, we're so thankful for your team because we came to you and we're like, hey, if we get the $5 per user per month, we get that. But if we as an influencer can come and add more value and engage like never before with our audience, with our ministry, I just think of our ministry like it's always a monologue. It's a one-way shipment of content. Like, and imagine if my ministry, our ministry, Nick V Ministries, can actually have donors share about, where did you see Nick? Oh, I gave my life to Jesus. Oh, that's when I stopped doing drugs. That's, you know, my son got saved. Oh, where were you? Oh, how can I pray? It's a community thing that ministries don't have at all. As an influencer, I mean, we've got 19 million social media fans. It's a lot of fans. If we were not shadow banned, we would probably have 60 million, 70 million by now. For real.
I believe it.
Easy. But knowing now what we build on needs to be firm and with integrity and long lasting, because the waves come and go. And so the way that I can bring the illustrative thing is, before the surfboard that you've supplied us, we've been on a 2x4 getting washed up on the freaking shore. All right? 2x4 getting washed up on the shore again and again and again and again. Multiple platforms canceling, shadow banning. There's a whole episode on that. Doesn't matter. But this is indeed, Kary, very humbling to witness today. And it's very surreal that we're here today talking about it. And we're so glad that we're partnered with you and pioneering a way for influencers, churches, nonprofit organizations to see the wave, to see you're on a 2x4, get a surfboard. Just get the surfboard. Anything else that you want to talk about, Tuvu,
give us like a last few sentences.
Well, I was just thinking when you said that, I think really, what is the church, right? The church has many expressions. There is the traditional, what we think of church, pastor and building and things, and that's wonderful and should always be. But you're also a church of sorts because you have, you're following, God has called you to a movement that you're leading and what your different efforts, in multiple, I think you have 11 or 12 that I'm identified, you know, everything from suicide prevention to on down the line. These are movements that you're actually doing in the church. So I like using the word Ecclesia. I think we're facilitating your digital Ecclesia a lot better because you have that, but it hasn't been enabled to the degree when you're talking about your donors, your supporters, your champions being able to share, hey, I feel like this is what the Lord is saying. You really are inside of your own type of a church. Yeah. And that's what we are excited to be able to help you to do with your different entities. And I'm very, very impressed by you and all the work that you do. I don't know how you do everything you do. You're one of the most amazing people I've ever met.
I'm still trying to figure it out.
I know. Yeah, you just are impressive. But
God is good. God is good.
So it's very, very excited to be partnering with you guys.
It's beautiful.
If someone wants to learn more about Tuvu, where can they go?
Well, Tuvu.com is always a fast answer, but I would absolutely encourage them to join, to connect with Nick and his ministries and his efforts through Tuvu. So you can get to Tuvu.com. Of course, we're on the App Store, Play Store, website, and we have what's called a responsive app. But I think with you, we'll also be able to provide you some links if that's interesting for the podcast, and should take them right into what you're doing there.
Awesome. Congratulations, and may God bless you and your family and your bloodline as you continue to pioneer incredible things, creative things, innovative things for the Lord, and may He continue to bless and protect you and give you wisdom and grace and strength through it all.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
It's beautiful.
God bless you guys and all your work of the Lord, and we're looking forward to celebrating in heaven. We were just talking about our barbecue we're planning for there. If anyone wants to come in heaven, you got to get saved, but
we will have a barbecue.
He's going to have a big mansion,
invited.
I know that, so I figure you have enough room for everybody.
I'm sure we've all got the same neighborhood here at this table. We're pretty good.
That's right. Allow me to end on a personal note with you, Kary, and then we'll officially close this one out. It's like, if your life can write one sentence on someone's heart, what would it be?
On somebody's heart.
Yeah.
To point to Jesus, if that's the right way to say it, is the only way, the truth, and life. Come join us in heaven.
beautiful.
That's where our home is.
Man.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Kary. It was really great conversation. And again, like Kary said, you can find Tuvu.com. You can get it on the App Store and also the Google Play Store. And like Nick said and Kary said, we'll be on there pretty shortly in creating a community of sorts and specific content for people who are wanting to find growth, motivation, encouragement on specific topics. And again, money should not be an issue. We're going to have an opportunity for anybody who wants to join it, really cannot afford it. We're going to be offering that type of scholarship for people who want to join in through our communities, absolutely free, and remove all hindrance of you joining and being in that type of community. And hopefully that we could also set like this example for churches. We could set an example for other families to have connection in their own, so on. So thank you so much. We're so blessed. And yeah, that was really good.
You did so awesome, bro. Give me a fist bump.
I was like, I don't know how to end that last sentence.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for watching. I don't want to cut any of that out. That was beautiful. God bless you all.